What's up everyone, and welcome to the very first old school review right here on the Slam Sessions on YouTube.com. I'm your host Albert Albanese. On this show, I'll be reviewing a show I actually went to live. And I figured I could start with the very first show I went to live, but I think I should start with the most important one. Survivor Series 2002. Now this was a very big show for the WWE. This was the first ever Elimination Chamber main event in the history of the WWE. This spawned the Elimination Chamber pay-per-view, which went on to have many incarnations, which is still being used today all the way in 2019. The main event consisted of Triple H, Chris Jericho, Rob Van Dam, Booker T, Kane, and a returning Shawn Michaels, who was injured by Triple H at the SummerSlam prior to this Survivor Series event. This event not only marked a huge shift in the WWE in the main event picture as two World Heavyweight Championships changed hands, but was the first ever pay-per-view to feature every single WWE Championship defended on that show changing hands, a feat that wouldn't be repeated until the 2014 SummerSlam, which only saw 3 titles actually change hands. The card for this was absolutely stacked. Future Hall of Famers abound, and debuts of some of the biggest characters that we had ever seen at that point. Some of the major things that happened during this show was the debut of Big Papa Pump, Scott Steiner. Scott Steiner hadn't been seen on television since the fall of WCW. And when the WWE started over, he had a guaranteed contract in which he rode out. At this point, Scott Steiner decided to sign with the WWE. And this was his debut, beating up on Matt Hardy, version 1, and Christopher Nowinski. We were in the heat of the brand split in 2002, and it was very much prevalent in the opening match as 3-minute warnings Jamal, Rosie, and Rico took on Jeff Hardy, Bubba Ray Dudley, and Spike in a tag team elimination tables match. This was one of those matches where we not only got to see one of the crazier bumps that Jeff Hardy has ever taken, doing a swanton off the balcony to put one of the members of 3-minute warning through a table, but also the reformation of one of the most legendary tag teams in the history of professional wrestling, Bubba Ray and Devon, the Dudley Boys. Devon had been on SmackDown doing the Reverend Devon character, and while it didn't catch on, the WWE decided to put the team back together, and this was the first night we saw the Dudleys come back. Another huge match was the World Tag Team title match. Los Guerreros, Eddie Guerrero and Chavo, took on Chris Benoit and Kurt Angle, and Edge and Rey Mysterio in a triple threat tag team contest. This was an example of future Hall of Famers and some of the best wrestlers in the world plying their craft in a unbelievable show-stealing tag team contest. One of the bigger highlights on the show, though, was the then WWE champion Brock Lesnar, who had just won the title at SummerSlam from The Rock, taking on The Big Show. This was a huge night as Paul Heyman turned his back on his protege Brock Lesnar and sided with The Big Show, and The Big Show actually took the belt off of Brock Lesnar, starting Brock Lesnar's babyface turn, and really switched gears into what the WWE seemed to have really wanted, and that's have Brock Lesnar as the face of Friday Night SmackDown. The main event was nothing short of a classic. As in the first ever Elimination Chamber match, there were 6 men in there, all who are currently or future Hall of Famers. The match started as one of the more brutal matches that you'll ever see, and you got to see the high-flying acrobatics of a guy like Rob Van Dam ply his craft in this first ever match. These were the starts of the bumps that these guys would take in the future, as we saw guys get slammed on the grates outside, Chris Jericho getting thrown through pods, and of course, a horrific accident when we saw Rob Van Dam take flight from the top of a chamber with a 5-star frog splash, accidentally clipping Triple H in the throat and almost debilitating him for the entire match. But to Triple H's credit, he pulled through, and he actually finished the match, which saw the crowning of Shawn Michaels as the WWE World Heavyweight Champion, a championship that was given to Triple H by Eric Bischoff due to the fact that Brock Lesnar had defected to Friday Night SmackDown with the Undisputed Championship. Shawn Michaels enjoyed a reign as champion for a month, but it was a nostalgia trip that so many fans were so happy to take, and I was happy to experience live. The feeling that night was absolutely electric. This was one of those nights before the internet really got a hold of the wrestling industry where we didn't exactly know what was going on. There were a lot of rumors, but there wasn't so much craziness surrounding this entire event, and there were so many surprises. The Dudleys coming back, Shawn Michaels winning his first world championship in years after everyone only thought he was going to have a one-off match against Triple H at SummerSlam. Survivor Series 2002 saw every single championship defended change hands, something that had never happened before, and like I had said before, only happened once since. This was a landmark show and a big change in the way WWE was doing business. We saw guys like Scott Steiner make their WWE returns, but we also saw younger stars taking stage as guys like Billy Kidman and Jamie Noble battled over the Cruiserweight Championship, and we saw the ascent of guys like Eddie Guerrero, Chris Benoit, Edge, Rey Mysterio, and Kurt Angle as they battled in tag team matches where only a few short years later they would be main eventing pay-per-views and WrestleManias. Survivor Series 2002 is one of the most crucial pay-per-views of that year and in WWE history, and will be looked back on and revered for years. And I was just lucky enough to say that I was there.